Welcome to Staffworks Explained. In this video, we'll be doing a Talanta Stadium progress check, where we see that Kenya's AFCON showpiece, which is rising fast, but the hardest feat is still far much ahead. When Kenya won the right to co-host the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations alongside Uganda and Tanzania in a program dubbed Pamoja Bid, the constraint immediately shifted from diplomacy to infrastructure. At the center of that constraint sits Talanta Sports City, the 60,000-seat stadium rising at the former Jamhuri Park alongside Gong Road in Nairobi. This is the facility Kenya hopes will symbolize a new era in sports infrastructure. It is modern, broadcast ready, commercially integrated, and capable of hosting major continental football matches at international standards. But as construction intensifies, the project is also attracting growing scrutiny over financing, procurement, audit concerns, timelines, governance, and whether Kenya is genuinely on course to deliver before AFCON kicks off in June 2027. The questions are becoming sharper because Kenya has already experienced recent embarrassment with delayed flagship projects, including the Bomas International Convention Center expansion, which failed to meet expectations linked to Africa-France Summit preparation, which were here in May 2026. Talanta now carries similar national constraints, except this time the audience is continental. Here we examine the real construction progress, how the stadium is being financed, why the funding model sparked controversy, who is building it, why the military is supervising the project, what curve inspectors have said, and the audit concerns already raised, and whether Kenya is truly on track to avoid another deadline crisis. Now let's talk about the project that Kenya could not afford to fail. Talanta Sports City is not simply another stadium. It is effectively Kenya's flagship AFCON project. CAF awarded the 2027 tournament to the East African joint bid in September 2023, with matches expected to be hosted across Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. Kenya's key venues include Talanta Sports City, Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, and Nyayo Stadium. But Talanta became the symbolic centerpiece because it is the only completely new large-scale stadium under construction specifically for AFCON. The government presented it as a proof that Kenya can finally build modern sports infrastructure after years of stalled renovation, CAF bans, outdated facilities, and repeated failures to meet international standards. The facility is designed as a football-focused stadium with VIP hospitality suites, media broadcast infrastructure, training pitches, integrated security system, underground services, commercial area, and tournament trade, lighting, and turf system. The stadium is also expected to support athletics and rugby training facilities around the main arena. What is the actual progress of the site? Unlike many Kenya mega projects that remain stuck in artistic impressions, Talanta is visibly advancing. Construction has reached 91% overall. The main stadium structure is 89% complete, while auxiliary works such as training pitches, external road networks, and landscaping are also advancing, with handover targeted for the end of July 2026. The main stadium, which is the primary structure and the roofing, are almost finished. Spectator terraces and exterior features are wrapping up, and the pitch development, including grass and planting, has already commenced. In terms of training complexes, the 3 outdoor training pitches are currently at 87% complete. Auxiliary works, in that case, external infrastructure, including parking facilities, access road, is progressing on schedule. That timeline, however, should be treated cautiously. From a project management perspective, stadium projects are rarely delayed during earthwork and structural erection phases. The greatest risk usually emerges during systems integration, interior finishing, broadcast installation, testing, commissioning, evacuation certification, as well as operational readiness assessment. Those targets consume enormous time, require precise coordination between dozens of subcontractors. That is where global tournament stadium projects begin slipping behind schedule, and that's where Kenya now is. Let's now talk about the funding model, which is Kenya's first major stadium bond experiment. The financing structure behind Talanta may be the most important and controversial part of the entire project. Initially, the project was expected to rely mainly on funding from Sports, Arts and Social Development Fund (SASDF), formerly associated with revenues generated from betting taxes and sports-related levies. But as costs increased, government shifted toward a far more sophisticated capital markets structure. In July 2025, a special purpose vehicle known as Lindsay Finco 003 Trust issued Kenya shillings 44.79 billion infrastructure asset-backed security IABS on the Nairobi Security Exchange to finance the stadium. This became one of the largest infrastructure-backed bond issuance in East Africa and one of the Kenya's most ambitious attempts to finance public infrastructure through capital markets rather than direct sovereign borrowing. The 15-year bond carries returns of roughly 15% and is backed primarily by future flows from the sports fund rather than direct stadium revenues. That distinction matters. The government promoted the model as innovative because it reduced immediate constraint on traditional public debt. Critics argued the opposite, that taxpayers still ultimately carry the burden indirectly through state-linked cash flows. Why the bond became controversial. The financing structure quickly attracted criticism from economists, legislators, as well as financial analysts. One concern was that the National Treasury declined to provide an explicit sovereign guarantee for the bond. Instead, repayments depend on continued disbursement into the sports fund structure. Another issue involved the long-term repayment burden. Reports indicate that investors could ultimately receive over 100 billion Kenya shillings in repayments and returns over the life of the instrument, more than double the original principal raised. Critics questioned whether Kenya should commit such expensive long-term financing toward a stadium project during broader fiscal pressure, and whether sports infrastructure should take priority over sectors such as health, water, or education. Even more sensitive were clauses reportedly allowing enforcement against actions against assets linked to the sports fund if repayment obligations fail or the fund structure changes before bond maturity. That transformed the debate from sports infrastructure into a broader conversation about public finance risk. The contractor and the military role. One unusual characteristic of Talanta Stadium is the central role played by the Ministry of Defense or Kenya Defense Forces. Rather than leaving implementation entirely under the Ministry of Sports, the government placed supervision and project management under the Kenya Defense Forces, with the military engineering structure heavily involved in the oversight. Officially, this was presented as a way to accelerate execution, improve discipline, streamline coordination, and avoid bureaucratic delays common in public construction projects. The move reflected growing government confidence in military-managed infrastructure implementation after similar involvement in roads, housing, and strategic facilities. However, the procurement process itself became controversial. Audit reports later revealed that the project was awarded through direct procurement rather than open competitive bidding. That immediately raised governance concerns because large public projects are normally expected to go through competitive procurement processes unless exceptional conditions exist. Now the audit concerns. In February 2026, the Auditor General, Nancy Gathungu, raised serious concerns about Talanta financing and procurement processes. Among these issues highlighted an unexplained increase in project cost from the Treasury approved 35 billion to approximately 45.85 billion Kenya shillings, lack of documented approval for the variation, failure to obtain mandatory Attorney General clearance, and concerns surrounding the procurement process. The audit also questioned aspects of revised financing arrangement linked to the bond structure and trustee payment obligation. From a project governance perspective, these are not small administrative issues. Mega projects survive on institutional credibility. Once procurement regularities emerge, scrutiny intensifies around value for money, contractor selection, contractor management, and long-term financial sustainability. Now let's go back to CAF inspections and what they have said. CAF inspection teams have repeatedly toured Kenya's proposed AFCON facilities over the past year. The inspection focused on stadium construction progress, training facility, hospitality capacity, training readiness, medical infrastructure, and security coordination, while CAF officially acknowledged visible progress on Talanta and renovation works at Kasarani and Nyayo Stadium. They also reportedly emphasized the importance of maintaining timelines because tournament infrastructure certification occurs well before opening matches. That is important. AFCON deadlines are not political estimates. They are operational deadlines tied to broadcasting, contract, team logistics, sponsorship commitment, and international scheduling. Any significant slippage creates continental consequences. Now, the big question. Will Talanta be ready for AFCON 2027? The answer today is possibly yes, but only if momentum remains uninterrupted. Structurally, the project has advanced faster than many skeptics expected, but stadium construction is deceptive and project can appear visibly advanced while still remaining far from operational completion. The most difficult phase still lies ahead. There is system integration, digital infrastructure, seating installation, turf preparation, security testing, operational certification, and tournament simulation exercise. Kenya still has a realistic pathway to completion before AFCON begins in mid-2027, but the margin for delay is narrowing, and recent Kenya experience with delayed mega projects means public skepticism will remain high until the stadium is fully operational. And now, the conclusion. Talanta Sports City is becoming more than a football stadium. It is now a test of whether Kenya can successfully deliver a politically important, technically complex, and financially controversial mega projects under international deadline constraint. The feasible construction progress is real, 87%, 91%. The financial structure is innovative by regional standards. The government has clearly prioritized delivery, but major concerns still remain. Procurement questions, audit findings, financial risk, and brutal reality of compressed stadium delivery timelines. The government insists Talanta will be ready before AFCON 2027. Technically, that remains achievable, but Kenya has entered the most dangerous phase of any mega project, the stage where political optimism collides with systems integration, operational readiness, as well as unforgiving deadlines. So thank you for reaching this far. If you have reached this far, please consider subscribing to this channel if you have not. You can also tell us your views about completion of this project on time, and also you can watch other videos that we have made on Talanta Stadium so that you can learn more about how this stadium has been done. So thank you, and let us meet in the next one.